There are a lot of defensive injuries in FPL. In fact, I just used my wildcard and played with 9 men because so many of my players were left out. Guys, today we are looking at some transfer tips and my team for Game Week 19. Make sure you like and subscribe and let's get right into the video. First off, we will look at the fixture difficulty rating. There's a lot of good teams with a lot of good fixture runs this time around, guys. There's not a lot of teams in the bottom tiers. There's a lot of teams in the top tier and the second to top tier, you know, very good fixture runs coming up. A good week to buy some players for your FPL teams. Newcastle take the top spot because their entry point, they play against Burnley. And in the next 4 game weeks, they also play home to Leeds and away to Wolves, a really good fixture run that will carry on up until game week 24 when they play away to Liverpool. West Ham also looking very similar because they have 5 good games. Then they play away to Chelsea. And what do you know? Spurs, very similar as well. Brighton also look very strong, but you will need bench cover for game week 21. So if you own players like Jorginho or Van Hecke, 2 good players to own, you will need some players to cover them for rotation because you do not want to have a player playing away to Man City. There are also some really popular players with some really bad fixture runs. You look to Aston Villa, Morgan Rogers and Watkins are going to be quite popular. Leeds, Calvert-Lewin is popular. Chelsea, yeah, Pedro and Reece James are looking quite popular, and even Harry Wilson from Fulham. All these guys don't have the best fixture runs. Well, Fulham's not awful once you get past that game away to Palace, but even then it's not great. There's also a lot of popular Man United players to bring in, and short term their fixture run is great, but after game week 21, you may not want to play those Man United players. You know, players like Dorgu and Cunha look really good, and we'll talk about them later. But after that Burnley game, you probably don't want to own them. You could maybe hold them for Man City at home, but for Arsenal away, you really don't want to own anyone because Arsenal away is the single toughest fixture this season in the league. The annoying thing is about a lot of these teams with good fixture runs is there's not especially great assets for those teams. Like Everton, who have you got? Really no one. Brighton, you have Jorginho, that's all right, but he's a rotation risk in himself. Then you've got Newcastle, sure, you've got Voltemar there, he's good, but the midfielders are rotation risks and their defence isn't incredibly strong. West Ham, we all know there's only Jared Bowen, there's no one else you really want to own from that team. And Spurs look terrible at the moment, so it's going to be hard to, decide who you should actually bring in. Should you focus on the form or the fixtures? Well, we're going to discuss that right now when we look at players to buy in each position for FPL. Firstly, we have defenders. Now, Tarkowski, I rate a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I'm rating these transfers now, by the way, guys. I used to have their ownership under their name, but I think it's better to rate these transfers out of 10. It's just more informative. Anyway, Tarkowski, 6 out of 10. Would be a little higher because his next 3 games are really good defensively. Like Everton are a fairly strong defense, and Forest, Brentford and Wolves are all really good games for Everton defenders. Not so much for Everton attackers, but Everton defenders definitely. Tarkowski is only a 6 out of 10 because he is on 4 yellows. If he gets a yellow next game week, he will miss the Brentford game. But after game week 19, that yellow card counter will reset and he won't be at risk to get suspended after 5 yellow cards. Above him, we have Van Hecke. The Brighton defence doesn't look sensational right now, and you will need cover for that Man City away game unless you just want to accept a blank in game week 21. Apart from that, their fixtures look great, Home to Burnley especially looks amazing. Away to West Ham and home to Bournemouth also isn't too bad because West Ham and Bournemouth do not look good at all. And looking at the offensive stats, Van Hecke has been scoring a few goals recently and the underlying data backs it up too. I mean, he's overperforming it a bit, but his data is still good. You can expect him to score again this season. Above him, we have Patrick Dorgu, and it may seem like point chasing because he just got a 17-pointer. Now we're all flocking in on Patrick Dorgu, but Patrick Dorgu is so good to own for the next 3 game weeks. He is going to be playing as a winger. His underlying data going forward is all right. He can put away chances. He's not afraid of shooting. We've seen that all this season. The Manchester United defensive data actually looks pretty strong. 3rd for expected clean sheets across the last 8 game weeks, which I did not expect. He's even good for DEFCON, so Patrick Dorgu for the next 3 weeks is probably the best defender to own. I myself won't be able to buy him because it's just not right for my team, but if you guys need to make a defensive transfer and you're okay with doing something short term, Dorgu is so good to bring in. Thiaw is, a very similar rating, 7 out of 10, except he's a little more long term. I did mention the Newcastle defense not being super strong, and they're not, but Thiaw, he's got a goal threat, he's got good DEFCONs, and the fixtures are so good. Playing Burnley and Wolves in the next 4 game weeks, there's got to be at least 1 clean sheet in there and some DEFCONs for Thiaw as well. Just keep in mind, when the fixtures are bad, a Newcastle defender is not great to own. Above him, we have rotation risk, Jury and Timber. Now, I did say last game week when I recommended Timber that he will get rotated now and then, but it's still worth it because his underlying data going forward is so good. He will make up for it in goals and assists, which is what I'm counting on after he let me down last game week. Arteta is very cryptic. He doesn't reveal much, but I expect Timber to be okay. I can't say the same for Calafiori. I don't know. But Timber was rested, okay? Arsenal fans were saying on Twitter that he needed a rest and it was overdue. So it's understandable that he was left out. Apparently, he got a little knock. I'm confident in him starting next game week, but we will get a press conference before the deadline. So we don't have all the information available right now, but we will hopefully, come tomorrow or the next day before the deadline. The Arsenal defense is still ridiculously strong. They've been underperforming their defensive data massively here. They're first for expected goals conceded, first for expected clean sheets, and there's not even a close second place. Like I said, Man United are third, and they're quite a way behind Arsenal on the defensive data. Arsenal defense is still the best to own. You should own 2 Arsenal defenders, whether that's Timber and Gabriel or Timber and Raya. I'm not so sure when Gabriel's actually going to start again. I don't think he's going to start in game week 19, which is why I've not recommended him here. I think game week 20 is going to be the time to bring in Gabriel. And then their back line should hopefully be back to normal, and they will be back among the clean sheets. I think they could keep, 5 or 6 clean sheets in the next 5 or 6 games. It's that good. They rarely ever concede more than 1 goal in a game. So yeah, Arsenal, definitely a team to buy defenders from. Timber is the only one I really think you guys should get in this game week, but Calafiori, Gabriel are going to be good to own long term when they're actually ready to start. The midfielder market is looking really dry right now. As you can see here, there's only 3 players I would really encourage you guys to buy. These bottom 2 players are only 5 out of 10 transfers. Gordon's underlying data looks really good. The Newcastle fixture run is the best in the league, but Gordon's expected goals aren't actually that high. His non-penalty expected goals are a little lower than that, but either way, his underlying data is still good, and he still has a really good fixture run. It's his minutes that I'm worried about. Fair enough. His minutes per appearance right now is 73 minutes. That's really good. But across the next 4 game weeks, do I expect him to start every single one of those games? No. And that's why I put him at the bottom here. Above him, we have Mohamed Kudus. Now, the underlying data does not look good, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not great. But Kudus is a good player to own because there is a good fixture run coming up. And I said this with Sharda last game week. Sharda had a lot of blanks, I think 5 blanks in a row. And I brought him in for that 20-pointer. And I said you guys should too, because good fixtures encourage good form. Well, now that's the same with Spurs. I think Kudus could come onto some good form here because he is the most reliable Spurs midfielder. Just keep in mind that entry point away to Brentford isn't great. And that brings us on to Sharda, guys. It's not point chasing if you want to bring in Sharda. Okay, he's a good player to own for the long term. That Chelsea fixture in a few game weeks time isn't great, but apart from that, Sharda's underlying data looks great. I mean, fair enough. He got a lot of expected goals last game week. I think 2.7 expected goals and 4 big chances for a hat-trick. I own Sharda for that 20-pointer, and I'm so lucky because I still got a red arrow. It could have been a lot worse for me. So, you didn't listen to me last week. Make sure you listen to me this game week because Sharda is still a good player to own while the fixtures are good. Above him, we have Cunha, and like I said, it's the next 3 game weeks you'd bring him in for. You could maybe hold him for that home to Man City game because the Man City defense isn't crazy strong. They do concede goals. But after that, when they play away to Arsenal, you get rid of him. So Cunha, really, really good to own. But he is short term. Just keep that in mind. Finally, in first for midfielders, we have Declan Rice. Set and forget for the rest of the season, guys. He is going to score very similar to Bukayo Saka across the rest of the season, but he is going to be 3 million cheaper. His underlying data isn't great, but it doesn't need to be. With DEFCONs and all the big chances he's creating from set pieces, we know Arsenal love set pieces. They will end first for set piece goals at the end of the season. Declan Rice is on almost all of the set pieces, and his DEFCONs are so good. It's so hard for him to blank. He's not going to get you massive scores. He's not going to get you many double-digit hauls, but you can expect 5 to 7 pointers most game weeks. And the odd blank will come, but on the whole, he's really good to just sit in your team. He can do well in the hard fixtures and the easy ones. You don't need to worry about transferring out when the games get tough because he's going to be in your team for the rest of the season unless he gets injured. Honestly, such good value in my opinion. And even looking at his underlying data, 0.29 expected goal involvements per 90 isn't even that bad. He's very good player to own. The fixtures aren't even that tough. So yeah, make sure you get on Declan Rice because he's a player you can just sit in your team and not worry about for the rest of the season. Finally, we have Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and I don't have all the data for him like Kudus. They're both playing after I'm recording this because I'm recording it on Sunday before the game's played. Either way, Calvert-Lewin's data looks insane, and I have been ignoring him for the last few game weeks because his fixtures are so tough, and they still are really tough. That's why I've given him a 4 out of 10. But at the end of the day, he is still one of the best forwards to get, at least in the top 5, because his data is so good. I just don't expect him to keep it up. Calvert-Lewin is historically an awful FPL asset and a big troll. If you've owned him the last few game weeks, you would not think that. He's actually been your hero. Either way, there's way too many good forwards in this game to own alongside Haaland, so I've not put him that high. And it's the same for Thiago. Despite Thiago's fixture run being alright, his underlying data is pretty bad and he's not on the best form. It's looking like he needs penalties to actually convert anything. So yeah, while he's a good player to hold, I wouldn't necessarily be eager to sell him. He's only a 4 out of 10 because the 3 players above him are just way too good to ignore. So we're going to ignore these two because I don't especially want any of you guys to bring them in. The top three is where it's at. Ekitike is at number 3, purely because he does play away to Arsenal in a few game weeks time. That's not really a fixture you want him for. It's almost a guaranteed blank, if we're being completely honest. But his underlying data is so good, and the fixtures leading up to it, plus after it, are really good. You know, home to Burnley is worth holding a player for through Arsenal away. You know, you're getting a guaranteed blank, but then it's followed by nearly a guaranteed return. So Ekitike, definitely one of the best forwards to own this game week. I wouldn't put him above Bowen and Voltemada. The reason he's not above Bowen or Voltemada is because he plays away to Arsenal, like I said, and I do worry about him being a slight rotation risk. So he's not above those two because he's also a little more expensive. Above him, we have Jarrod Bowen, who long-term has an amazing fixture run. His underlying data is all right. It's not amazing, but it's all right. And he has some really easy games coming up. Even the great fixtures, you know, home to Brighton and away to Tottenham. Those two teams do concede goals, and Bowen is the only West Ham player with good underlying data, which, you know, it makes sense to bring him in above the likes of Paqueta or Somerville in the midfield, because Bowen is really the only one you're looking at when you're looking at reliable goal involvement potential. Just don't expect monster hauls from this guy. You can expect him to overperform his expected goals. You can expect him to score a lot of big chances, but at the end of the day, he is a West Ham player. Just keep that in mind. After him, we have Voltemada in the number 1 spot because he has the Burnley entry point and he has Wolves in a few game weeks time. Johan Wissa does exist, okay? He's a good backup striker. If Voltemada blanks a couple game weeks in a row, he may get benched, but I do expect him to start most games for Newcastle. You know, his underlying data is good. He's putting away the big chances, and that's what you want in a striker. You're not going to bench a striker who's putting away goals for your team. That's just not how life works. So I expect him to maybe get rotated once in the next 5 or 6 game weeks, but no more than that. Let's just hope he doesn't get rotated away to Wolves or away to Burnley, because those 2 games are so good for any striker. As long as you own Haaland and at least 2 of these 3 players in Ekitike, Bowen and Voltemada, you are set. If you're not playing a front 3, I do worry for you, and I mean that with all the love in the world. Like, Ekitike, Bowen and Voltemada are all so good to own. I think you should own at least 2 of them, and if you're not playing a front 3, you may need to switch to it, or else you're going to be falling behind very soon. As for my team in game week 19, guys, we had a red arrow despite owning Sharda. Now, I am no longer anywhere near the top 5k shades, but I can now wear the 20-point Shardas. I'm not going to lie, that's a massive reach. We're not going to start that as a thing. We'll keep the top 5k shades there and hope we can work our way back to them. My team going into game week 19 is looking strong, but there are a lot of defensive injury risks in Timber, Calafiori, Esteve and Vandenberg. I'm worrying that, again, I'll have to play with 9 men instead of 11. But like I said, I do expect Timber to start. As for Calafiori and Vandenberg, I feel like at least one of them is going to play. There's no way they both don't. Even Esteve, I don't really want to have to rely on Esteve, but I may have to if the others aren't going to play. But it's not worth a transfer, because I do think at least 2 of Timber, Calafiori and Vandenberg will start in game week 19. As for which one, I don't mind. They both have very good clean sheet potential. If I had it up to me, I'd have both of them start and not have to rely on Van Dijk, because that Liverpool defense isn't amazing. But I'm not going to put Van Dijk on my bench, because if Van Dijk does keep a clean sheet and someone like Vandenberg or Calafiori blocks him coming off my bench with an 8-minute cameo at the end of a game, that's going to really frustrate me. So I am going to start Van Dijk, despite preferring a back line of Vandenberg, Calafiori and Timber. I've got a lot of potential points on my bench here. Verbruggen away to West Ham just simply is not as good as John home to Everton, as Forest are looking like one of the best defences in the league right now and Everton are looking like one of the worst attacks. It's an absolute no-brainer. Jorginho playing away to West Ham, if he starts, he's very likely to get a return, but I think he's going to get rotated. Brighton players get rotated a lot, and Jorginho has started the last 4 games. With less than 3 days between game week 18 and game week 19, I find it very unlikely that Jorginho is going to get his 5th start in a row. I think they're going to rest him, and I hope that's the case, because I want him to start home to Burnley in game week 20. As for the midfield, I was very tempted to captain Cunha, but Manchester United are losing all of their creative assets, right? 2/3 of their big chances created have come from unavailable players in Bruno, Mbumo and Ahmad, okay? I think 17 out of the 25 big chances created for Manchester United have come from those 3 players. I simply cannot ignore that, okay? Cunha is not going to get as much reception as he was used to getting. The expected goals are still going to be good against a team like Wolves, there's no doubt about it, but unfortunately, he is not captaincy material this game week, in my opinion. We then have Sharda, who just got 20 points. I think he's going to carry this good form into the next few weeks, and he will get a couple more goals, but I'm not expecting another 20-pointer, but if he wants to get another 20 points, he can. I'm not going to say no. Foden has blanked twice in a row, but Foden's ownership is very high. very scary to go without, and Sunderland is by no means a bad fixture. Then we have Declan Rice. Hopefully he can create another big chance and get me another assist and maybe some defcons too. Aston Villa is Arsenal's bogey team, and I do expect Arteta to put his strongest team out, especially because Aston Villa are on such good form right now. They're going to be a hard team to stop. Now, Haaland is my captain, and Sunderland have conceded the least goals to strikers this season among other teams as well. It's been like 4 or 5 goals conceded to strikers across 18 game weeks, and that's not because they have some hidden strategy that stops strikers from scoring. It's not that. It's simply because they haven't played against Man City, okay? That's the one. Haaland could score a brace, and then they're nowhere near the team that's got the least goals conceded to strikers. It's a matter of who's played against Haaland and who hasn't. And Sunderland are yet to play against Haaland, so he is going to ruin that record for them, and he will probably score a good 2 or 3 goals in this game. Let's be honest, he's more likely to score a brace than he is to blank. And that's just reality, guys. Haaland is insane. I've went against him twice this season. Every other game week, I've captained him. Every time I go against him, it doesn't go well, so it's better to play it safe than be sorry, and there's no other real good captaincy option this game week, so Haaland is the guy I'm going to captain, and I don't think anyone's surprised. I think most people are going to be with me on that one. Then we have Bowen and Ekitike. Ekitike hardly affects my rank because everybody owns him. Jared Bowen is where I'm looking for points in my front three. A lot of people will either own Voltemade or Thiago or Dominic Calvert-Lewin instead. I'm hoping Bowen can pull through despite not having the easiest fixture. West Ham can still bag a goal in this game, and if they do, Bowen is the most likely one to be scoring it. So Bowen, please come in clutch for me for some differential points, because I cannot rely on another shot or 20-pointer to keep me afloat. Anyway, guys, that is it from me. Those are my transfer tips to you. That is my team for Game Week 19. I'm hoping to get closer to the top 5k soon because I want to be wearing them top 5k shades. Guys, if you made it this far, you are greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And I will see you all in Game Week 20.